Greetings from Northwest Arkansas. My name is Tyler Clark. I'm a project coordinator with the Northwest Arkansas Tobacco Free Coalition. My colleague Paige Daniels is behind the camera with us today. We're both grantees through the Arkansas Department of Health Tobacco Prevention Cessation Program. Paige is a minority grant recipient, and I'm a Department of Health recipient. And I'm going to share with you today, two studies we've commissioned to help us with our work here in the Northwest Arkansas area. The first of which is a air quality survey we commissioned with the Roswell Park Institute in northern New York. And what this study did was actually provide us data of the toxicity levels in the air in our Fayetteville bars. We're currently in the middle of a smoke-free bar campaign here in Fayetteville. We're providing education efforts and the studies and the data for that campaign. And I'm going to show you that policy, or the work we've done now so far. Again, we commissioned this in February of 2011 of this year. Dr. Mark Travers did this study for us. The purpose of this study was to compare the levels of secondhand smoke in bars allowed and prohibited smoking, to understand how our bars in Fayetteville compared to the EPA recommendations for indoor air quality. The goal of the study was to find specific data specific to Fayetteville, educate the community and city leaders about the reality of indoor air quality, and promote informed health decisions. So what was measured in this study? PM 2.5 is a concentration of particulate data in the air, or matter in the air, that is actually breathed deeply into the lungs. If you look at this little scenario here, the black section here is a human hair, and the particulate data right there, 2.5, is the actual tobacco particulate data. So much smaller, as you see, and again, much more able to be ingested in the human lungs. I'm sorry, that's the PM 2. This kind of captures the tobacco smoke here, and that's the tobacco smoke. Pretty interesting, huh? Okay, so what was measured? The concentration of particulate matter in the air, which was less than 2.5 microns diameter, so again, very, very small. And what was used to do so? We rented this, what they call a TSI side pack personal aerosol monitor, which is about the size of, ironically, the size of a pack of cigarettes, and it's actually stored in the person's purse or bag, and they measure the it measures the level of smoke and particulate matter in the air. So why is PM 2.5 used with this particular measurement? Well, it's a very sensitive marker of tobacco, and it's standard. It's standard through the EPA, and it's a standard measurement device used everywhere. This is just a quick picture of what the EPA recommends for air. You see the top is the air quality, PM 2.5 level, and the health advisory. So green is good. There's no advisory there. Moderate is 16 to 40 PM 2.5, and goes up to be hazardous and unhealthy. So the data collection took place in a week and a half time in February here in Fayetteville. A male and female couple went into these bars, smoking and non-smoking, purchased water or soda, set in a central location, carried the equipment in a handbag, and laid it on a table or a bar, and collected observation data such as the size of the space, how many people were smoking, and let the data collector do the rest. So the findings were, in 22 locations that observed smoking that we tested, there was an average of 2.5 cigarettes, 2.6 cigarettes burning during the visits, which translates to about less than a half a cigarette per 100 cubic feet. Or 100 cubic measures, excuse me, 100 cubic meters, pardon me. In the 22 locations observed smoking, the average PM 2.5 level was 126, which is quite high and hazardous. We found that smoking versus non-smoking venues, air pollution was 21 times higher than non-smoking venues, and 12 times higher than the outside air in Arkansas. So this is a graph of where our average bars, the average Atlanta was 126 PM 2.5, the smoke-free was 6, outdoor was 11, and this is, again, is the monitoring device that tells us what's healthy and what's unhealthy. Funny enough, it's actually safer inside the smoke-free bars. We can attribute that to possibly air purifiers, but also HVAC systems, air conditioners, heating ducts, those kind of things. So the case we made, it's actually safer inside those spaces. So again, PM 2.5 was much lower, 95% lower in smoke-free venues compared to where smoking is permitted. Employee exposures were exposed at 2.5 times the annual EPA exposure limit to particulate air pollution solely from the occupational exposure. So their jobs are dangerous because they're exposed to these high levels of PM 2.5, which is not recommended by the EPA. Just more observations. This shows actually the 6 smoke-free venues we tested, or they tested, and the 7 through 28 to the 21 smoking venues they tested. As you see, the highest level of PM 2.5 was, let's see, where was this? It's actually the size of the bar itself, the average people smoking and burning cigarettes, and then the level of PM 2.5. So if you see here, the largest level of PM 2.5 was at 396. A much smaller venue, only 272 cubic meters, but there was an average of 4.3 cigarettes burning there. So a much smaller space, 20 people on average, 4 cigarettes burning per person, or burning on average, at a much higher rate of PM 2.5, which is not recommended. And this is just a actual real-time estimate, a real-time graph of when our data collectors went into these spaces and did the venues. So you'll see venue 1 through 4 right here were non-smoking venues, and the 7th venue and the 8th venue here were actually smoking venues. So you can see the lower levels of PM 2.5 and the spike up here at level 7 or venue 7, and they go back outside. They go back out. They stay in the spaces for about 30 to 45 minutes. So you notice this little venue. So you notice here in the venue 1, they're inside. They go outside. It spikes up a little bit. They go back into new venue. Spikes back down. Goes back up. So they go outside. Spikes back down. Back up. Down. So you get the visual here. Again, these are non-smoking venues, or these are smoking venues rather. These are all smoking venues, and they vary in size and they vary about the amount of cigarettes they actually have smoking inside. But still, the safe level is right at 35 PM 2.5 or 50 PM 2.5. So all these venues are actually very hazardous for people to be inside. Venue 5 is a smoke-free venue, so it's much lower than these other venues here. And to see this one particular level of venue in 20 peaked at 275 PM 2.5, so very dangerous for those people who work and attend those bars. Again, more visuals. This is a smoking bar, non-smoking bar. So you'll see how the levels drop off as they go outside. So venue 23, it could have been just maybe 1 or 2 people smoking cigarettes instead of maybe 6 or 7. I think the thing to observe here is that these aren't 100 cigarettes burning. These are a matter of 4 to 5 average cigarettes burning per venue. So comparisons. When we compare some venues exceeded the hazardous level of the EPA's considered limits. In venues 24, 25, and 28, they had pollution levels higher than the Hayman fire in 2002 in Colorado. It's the worst forest fire in Colorado history. So again, as I mentioned before, anything less than 15 PM 2.5 is safe for us to breathe. At 16 to 40 is usually people who have asthma or breathing problems should not probably be in that situation. But you got to think most of these smoking venues were in the 66 to 150 to even 151 area here. So here's a picture of a satellite picture of the Hayman fire in Colorado, and then here's the visibility before the fire, visibility after the fire. Keep in mind, on the worst part of the day, the PM 2.5 was only at 43 PM 2.5 max, and at 200 at the hourly max. So some of our venues and smoking bars in Fayetteville actually had higher PM 2.5 than they did in the forest fires in Colorado. So again, in conclusion of the study, workers who were exposed to secondhand smoke were 2.5 times exposed to 2.5 times the recommended levels of EPA standards. Again, people who lived and worked, or not lived, but worked in those smoke-free venues, 95% less smoky. And then we know that policies and laws actually limit the access to secondhand smoke and significantly reduce the exposure to indoor air pollutants. So that was the indoor air study we commissioned through the Roswell Park Institute, Cancer Institute. We'll be right back in just a second for our voter registration survey.